Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday and happy So What Day. I hope you're all enjoying our Scarlet Bag Sew Along. Lots of you are already posting pictures of your bag on our Facebook group page, which is called Sulky Stitch and Post. If you are not already a member of that private Facebook group, I highly encourage you to check it out. All you need to do is log into your Facebook page and search for Sulky Stitch and Post. We'll also put the link in the live chat here for you so you can just easily head on over there, ask to join, and then once you are a part of that group, you can post all kinds of pictures of your project progress, pictures of your finished projects. You can check out a lot of our New Year's Eve bags. Lots of people are posting their Dutton bags from New Year's Eve, and it's so great to see everybody's different take on these patterns. And someone posted a whole slew of sulky kit projects the other day. There was a rope basket, a mini quilt, just all kinds of things, and it's a great place to get answers to your questions from, fellow sewers who are also working on these kits or using sulky designs. And it's also a great place to chat with us directly. So if you do have a question and you're working your way through a project or something like that, you can head to this Facebook group, post your question, maybe even snap a picture of it if you're having a problem with your machine or something just isn't coming together the way that you want it to. So this is a really great group to be a part of. Sulky Stitch and Post, Stitch N Post, like Sulky's Stick and Stitch. You get the idea. And I know a lot of you are already part of that page because I recognize a lot of your names. So really great that we can come together there. Speaking of that, the Stitch and Post page is also where you can get some special deals. Sometimes we'll sneak in a coupon code or something like that that's only going out to our Stitch and Post little family. So there's lots of benefits of being a part of that. I also wanted to let you all know that our Greece tour is really filling up fast. There are a limited number of spots available. After I talked about it last week, I guess a lot of people just kind of went for it. So that's really exciting, and I can't wait to meet you all in Greece. And this time around, I'm going to try to meet everybody at the airport at JFK before we head on over to Greece as well. It's a little bit hard to coordinate everybody's travel schedules, but I'm hoping to organize something a little bit better this go around so that we all can get to know each other before we even get on the plane, which is really nice. So that, along with the hands-on workshop that I'm putting together for Greece, I think you're all going to really enjoy it. Not to mention the incredible sights and all the activities that are planned for us so meticulously by Craft Tours. If you've never been on a Craft Tours trip before, they really, really take care of everybody. And we have a Craft Tours tour guide that joins us, and it's just so well thought out with crafting in mind, specifically, obviously, sewing. So I cannot wait. As you can tell, I'm just bursting with excitement about this. If you do have questions about our Greece tour, I can always direct your question to the right person, or I might be able to answer it myself. So feel free to email me at info@sulky.com, and I'd be happy to talk to you about this tour. Craft Tours also has different kind of payment options available for different situations. So if you have a bunch of airline miles, maybe you want to use that, and then you want to join us for a land-only option, that is available too. So check out the full itinerary. I linked to our Greece trip in the description of today's post. So if you're not seeing that link, you just need to click on that little see more button, or it might say more depending on where you're watching us from today. And then the whole description will pop out for you. You will see links to our Greece tour, links to our Scarlet Bag Sew Along, and links for everything I'm talking about today. All right, so today's project that I wanted to share with you is kind of a resurrection of a past project. And I thought it was so appropriate for, the coming of springtime, which we're all looking forward to. I don't know about you, but it is absolutely freezing right now where I am. So I hope you're all staying warm and cozy. But, as sewers, we need a little advanced warning for the holidays and the seasons that are coming ahead of us, right? Because we need the time to schedule out our sewing. And we just need the time to complete things, right? So the project that I'm sharing with you today is a beautiful springtime quilt block. And right here you see the quilt block done with 4 blocks sewn together to create sort of a small size quilt, okay? But the beauty of this quilt block is you can use it in so many different ways. You can create one quilt block and have it be the centerpiece of your table. Maybe put, a vase with pretty flowers in that center part of the flower. Maybe some candles around, something like this. You can stitch 3 blocks together to create a table runner, which is what I'm going to show you today. You can create 9 blocks and create a larger size quilt. So really you're just learning the method to create this layered floral applique that goes on a quilt block. And then you can choose however many of those you would like to create for your table, your kitchen, a wall hanging, a placemat. You get the idea. So as with so many things in sewing, today we're just learning this method, and then we're going to go and make it our own. So just like I mentioned earlier, I would love to see what you do with this method and this pattern and how you make it your own over on our Stitch and Post Facebook group. So definitely join that so that you can share out your take on today's project as well. So this was created by Cheryl Lynch. She's a magnificent quilt designer, and she created this mandala mosaic masterpiece quilt pattern. And as I mentioned, it features fusible applique, but it's a layered applique technique. And what's interesting about it is it comes with all these templates for the flower petals. So although they're layered, they don't totally overlap each other. So you are using a little bit more of your fabric yardage, and you don't have the show through from the subsequent fabrics because they're really only layering each other a little bit. Does that make sense? You're not creating like this huge flower and then covering it up with a little bit smaller flower and so on. They are these individual petals that you are cutting out using templates. And the templates are created out of a plastic template sheet. So you can use them over and over again. It makes them really nice and sturdy. You're able to use them and use a rotary cutter to cut them out so that you can do it, a little bit quicker, a little bit more accurate, or of course you can use your regular scissors as well. So we're going to use a combination of that plastic template sheeting. We're also going to be using Sulky Perfect Applique Fusible Web, which is really important because Sulky Perfect Applique Fusible Web is very, very lightweight, but very strong. And I know some of you have used it before. I've talked about it a ton because it is literally my favorite fusible web that's out there. And dare I say I've tried them all. So if you've ever done an applique with a different product, maybe a more heavier weight fusible web, then you know what can happen, especially if you are adding this to a quilt, a wearable, a garment of some kind. Especially if you're doing a layered applique where certain elements are being fused on top of one another, you don't want that to be super, super thick and like bulletproof. You still want your quilt to be nice and soft. You want your garment to be nice and flowy when you're wearing it. You don't want this bulletproof thing in front of you that doesn't move with your body or move when you're cuddling up with a quilt or something like that. So it's very, very important to use a very lightweight fusible web. And what I like about Perfect Applique is even though it's very lightweight, it's super strong. Some of these more lightweight fusible webs, they look almost fibrous. You do your first fuse and then it starts peeling up along the edges. That's not helping anyone out. All right, so we want to use something lightweight yet strong, and I recommend Sulky Perfect Applique Fusible Web. Now we do have a kit for this project, and I gotta tell you, it retails for more than $130 because it has all of these beautiful fabrics that are also designed by Cheryl Lynch. These mosaic tile looking fabrics. It's very, very on trend for 2025 with this almost Mediterranean type of look to it, with these, blocks or sections of little tiles on all of these beautiful fabrics. Now, if you are going to create the table runner that I'm showing today, you only need 3 quilt blocks, okay? So let's say you just want to have the black and light gray and teal for your quilt blocks. Or let's say you want to only use the orange and the medium gray. So you can really experiment and mix and match with these fabric colors to create the flowers that you want to display on your table runner, okay? Especially if you're only making 1 block, then you can really use more of the fabric colors that speak more to you or to the room that you're going to display this in. All right, so this is just the palette that was created by Cheryl to create the quilt that features the 4 blocks that I showed you earlier. But again, if you deviate from that, then you will have more fabric to play with in specific colors within this palette. All right, so the kit comes with all these fabrics, a special cut of Perfect Applique Fusible Web. It comes with a 4-yard cut of Perfect Applique. So you won't be able to find that on its own just on the website. You would have to buy 4 1-yard packs or a roll or a bolt, okay? But in this kit, you get a special 4-yard cut of the Perfect Applique, and that's how much you would need to create that quilt that I showed you earlier with the 4 big blocks. So again, if you're deviating from that, or if you want to make more blocks, then you will need more fusible web or less, depending, okay? It also comes with this really great template plastic that I'm going to talk about in a moment. You also, of course, get the Mandala Mosaic Masterpiece quilt pattern that you can use over and over again, and it has great instructions for the fusible applique. And you get all of these great sulky threads. Now there's 2 spools of sulky poly light thread, which is our 60 weight polyester thread, really, really nice and lightweight. And you also get 4 spools of poly deco thread. I believe it's poly deco and not rayon, but now I have to double check because I am questioning myself. Excuse me, it is sulky rayon thread. I misspoke. In orange, yellow, black, steel gray, and light teal colors to match those great fabrics. Now that's what we're going to use for our beautiful blanket stitching that we are doing to secure our layered applique pieces. You could also choose the stitch of your choice to sew those together. So we'll go over that in a moment. The two poly light colors, one of them you're going to use in the bobbin, and then the other one you can use for quilting the piece. Because now that we've added, or once we've added all of our great applique stitching, we don't want to compete with that with the quilting. We still want that to look nice and shiny and perfect and blending in with the fabric colors and all of that. So the quilting that we add over the top is going to be the Sulky 60 weight, lighter weight poly light thread, so it kind of blends in with the fabric and doesn't detract from the applique stitching. All right, so this amazing kit, as I mentioned, it retails for over $130. The retail cost is $137.01 to be exact, okay? But right now, we are offering this kit at an amazing special price of $41.10. $41.10. Okay? Now, if you were to buy just 4 1-yard packs of perfect applique, what would that be? Let's check it out. I have my trusty website right next to me. Okay, so 1 yard, a 1-yard pack of just perfect applique is $8.99. All right, so almost for just the cost of perfect applique, you're getting this whole kit with all of this fabric, the pattern, the plastic template sheet, the threads that match the fabric perfectly. And this is an incredible deal, and I highly suggest you take advantage of this because once these are gone, they're gone. And this is an amazing, amazing deal on, I mean, just the fabric alone would be well over $41. So that is available right now at sulky.com. No coupon code necessary. Grab it up, put it in your cart, and let's get to it. All right. Oh, I also wanted to show you pictures of this table runner before we get into the method of this layered applique. So here is just 3 of those blocks sewn together. And again, you can just decide what fabric color you want to use for the background of your flowers, what fabric color you want to use for each of the petal areas. So this is entirely customizable to you. But I love the look of this table runner, especially draped over a bench or a couch. It's a great size to drape over a couch to display it. Absolutely love that treatment of it. So you can, again, hang this like a wall hanging, create a larger one for a quilt, do 3 blocks for a table runner, which is what we're showing here. All right, so I have a bunch of short videos to show you to kind of explain this method. And I'm going to try to narrate these little videos, but they are sped up a little bit. Cheryl provided us with these videos to just kind of give you an overview of this method and how the blocks come together. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is tracing the templates. All right. So as I mentioned, we're going to create a template using that plastic template sheet for each one of the petal sizes. Then you can use that plastic template to cut out all of the petals that you need. It's so much easier to use something like this plastic template sheet rather than cutting it out of flimsy paper or even cardstock. The plastic template is really helpful for making sure that your pieces are all very accurate. You're also going to use that plastic template to draw the shapes onto the paper side of your fusible web, and then you will attach that fusible web to the wrong side of the fabrics that you've chosen for each sort of size or layer of petals. Then you can cut them out along your along your markings is the word I'm looking for. All right. So, just some other notes about working with that plastic template sheet. So it is going to come to you in the kit rolled up. Okay. So it's going to have a little bit of memory of being rolled up in that kit. So before you dive in and want to start using it, open up that plastic template sheet, put some heavy books on it, and you may even want to apply a little tiny bit of heat to it, like just a low temp blow dryer, something like this. Do not get it really, really hot. It's a plastic sheet after all, but just to let it relax a little bit and get flatter so that you can cut out your templates from it and then use those for, creating your fusible applique pieces. All right. So I told you this was really, really sped up. This is a plastic template of that flower V. I'm just going to rewind and start it again because it goes by so fast. But you can see you do need a lot of each petal depending on how many blocks you are creating. So if you're just focusing on one, then follow the instructions in the pattern for one sheet. Use your plastic template that you're going to create, and then on the paper side of your fusible web, you will draw as many of that particular template as you need for however many blocks you are creating. And, it's not that this is particularly difficult to do, but it is time consuming. As you can see, however many petals you need, you're going to need to trace all those onto your fusible web. Then you cut them all out of your fabrics. So it is a process, but that's another reason why I thought this was a great project to bring to you when it's super cold outside and maybe we're not heading outside to do much because of the weather or because of whatever's happening around us that's preventing us from going outside. So I thought it was a great project to kind of put on your favorite podcasts, put on your favorite music, put on a great movie, and create your templates, cut out your pieces, and then just make piles of each of the petal sizes so that when you do go to assemble your flowers, you have everything ready to go. All right. And as you all know, cutting is often more time consuming, if not always more time consuming, than the actual sewing itself. So get in that meditative mode. And it's a lot of repetition, but if you have those plastic template pieces, you're sure to have nice, accurate cuts for all of your flowers that you're going to create. All right, let's see. So speaking of assembling those applique pieces, here's another video where we are assembling all of those petals. So we have got a pressing sheet over the top of our ironing surface, and we're just layering all of the different petals where they go on top of the pattern piece. So you'll follow the lines of the pattern piece, which is underneath of that pressing sheet, and start layering all of your applique petals. Now, of course, before this moment, we've removed the paper backing on that fusible web and we're doing our second fuse. But notice that we're not fusing this piece onto the backing fabric yet, or onto the background fabric. We are simply just creating this flower unit, okay? So you fuse as you go. A little handheld iron is great for this. You do not want to have your iron too hot because we're just doing our secondary fuse. We still need to do a third fuse to fuse this whole unit onto our background fabric. Okay? And at this point, or prior to this point, you would map out the fabric colors that you want to use for each layer of petal. This would also look really, really pretty just with those blacks and grays. Wouldn't that be pretty? All right. So now you have this flower unit, and you're going to peel it up off of that pressing sheet so that you can fuse it to your backing fabric, or I keep calling it backing, but it's the background fabric. All right. And you could also choose a different solid fabric for the background, and your mosaic flower would really, really pop. But I just love the sort of, I guess, balance, or the way that it makes the whole block look like a mosaic tile when you choose to use that mosaic fabric as the backing or background as well. So here's another video from Cheryl showing the assembled applique flower unit, placing it on that backing fabric or background fabric. So you simply center that flower unit where you want it on your block. And at this point, you could also have a larger piece of fabric rather than just the size of the quilt block as indicated on the pattern. So if you wanted to just showcase one flower applique on a larger rectangle of fabric, you could certainly take liberties with the design and do that as well. So you simply place your fabric, make sure everything is nice and pressed and flat, and then fuse your flower applique unit in place. So now it's time for the stitching. After all that work of making all of those flower units, now we get to sew it down to the backing fabric or background fabric. So you can choose a blanket stitch, which is what Cheryl used. She swapped out the thread so that the thread color matched the applique fabric color for each of the petal unit areas. And I think that is such a beautiful treatment. The colors match perfectly in that kit. So it's a great, great idea or option or choice, rather, to swap out your thread colors for the fabric that you're working on. She works from the center and goes outward on the flower. So first she does her applique stitching in that center circle, and then does each petal layer working her way outward. So I want to show you this video because it shows how she kind of pivots as she's working for all of those curves and the petal points and all of that. And again, it is sped up, so I'll show it a few times for you of that applique stitching. So first you want to bring your backing thread, or your bobbin thread rather, you want to bring that up to the surface. And notice it's a little bit different color. That's because she's using that poly light thread in the bobbin, and it matches the fabric that she's using for the back of this piece. Now, you can add your applique stitching before you create your quilt sandwich. And in that case, none of this stitching will show on the back of your quilt, table runner, placemat, what have you. So you can see she's got an open toe presser foot on here as well, which really allows you to see what you're doing really well. You can stop at those corner points, pivot the fabric, and then keep going. And you want to make sure whenever you stop and pivot that your machine needle is just beyond the edge of the applique rather than biting into the fabric. If you rotate the piece when your stitch is in the center of the applique, then it's not going to create a straight stitch. It's going to give you sort of like a triangle stitch. So make sure whenever you start and stop that your needle is along that edge of the applique rather than biting into the center. I'm just going to start it again so you can see how she brings up that bobbin thread before beginning. And then what you can do when you're done with each subsequent row of the petals, then you can thread a needle with both of those threads, bring them to the wrong side, and either tie them off or weave them in through the stitching that you've already done. And you can see how that orange thread just matches perfectly with that orange fabric, but it is that sulky rayon thread. So you can see on that teal row of petals that it's got a little bit of shine to it. It has a beautiful finish. It almost looks like silk. And the blanket stitch works really nicely for this sort of, for this mosaic look. But you could certainly do a straight stitch as well, just inside of the outer edge of those appliques, or choose a different decorative stitch on your sewing machine. We have so many decorative stitches built into our machines and they rarely get used. So you can experiment with different stitches, maybe even doing different stitches for each row of petals. So the choice is really yours. So at this point, you would raise the needle, keeping long thread tails so that you can weave them into the wrong side of your applique. So I love getting that really, really close-up view of those applique stitches. You can really see how beautiful it all comes together. It's so, so great. So after you add all of your appliques and you stitch them all down, then you can create your quilt sandwich with your batting and the backing fabric of your choice. Then you want to go ahead and quilt it however you like. So when you do it this way, you will not see those applique stitches on the back of your work. If you do want to see those, maybe you're doing just a straight stitch for all those petals and you want to be able to see it on the back, you can do your quilt sandwich before you do your applique stitching. So that's another choice that is all yours as well. If you do that, I would work on the centermost flower first, working your way out to the outer petals, and then go ahead and do your applique stitching on the other ones, on the subsequent ones in the quilt or table runner or whatever it is that you're making. All right, so after you create your quilt sandwich, as I mentioned, it's time for quilting. Cheryl used a long arm machine with that lighter weight Poly Light 60 weight thread in the needle and the bobbin. It's a nice neutral light gray thread, so it really blends in nicely. You can hardly see the thread, but you do get that dimension. You could see she straight line quilted this on the diagonal on a long arm machine. So if you want this same look and you're relatively new to quilting, I suggest plotting out your quilting lines on the piece. There are so many advantages of doing that. First off, using a removable fabric marker or chalk, when you plot the lines, then you can step back from it and see if that's the quilting that you really want to do on the piece. If it looks like it's competing too much with the flowers, or you simply don't enjoy the finished look of it, then you can start from scratch, get rid of all of those lines that you created, and then try something else. Maybe you want to echo quilt beyond each flower. or inside of each flower. There are so many different things you can do here. You can also do free motion quilting. And if you're new to free motion quilting, we have an excellent free motion quilting for beginners session at sewingonline.sulky.com. It comes with tons of videos. It's not intimidating at all. It's for the absolute beginner to the seasoned pro. If you want tips and techniques and templates for free motion and to learn some little, I don't really want to call it cheats because we're not cheating here. Helpful tools, tips and techniques from our expert, Eric Drexler. I highly suggest taking a look at that quilting session over on our education platform. It's just chock full of information about free motion quilting, and you'll be dropping those feed dogs and trying it out in no time. And a table runner like this is a great time to kind of put your free motion skills to the test and try it out, because it's not a large king size quilt that, might just blow your mind and be so intimidating, right? It's a smaller project that you can be proud of, that you can finish in an afternoon. So something like this, if you want to try your hand at free motion, check out that quilting session at sewingonline.sulky.com. And I guarantee you will feel more confident at the sewing machine. You won't need to send this off to a long armor, unless, of course, you have your own long arm machine, in which case, brava, and you should use it. And long arm machines love our 60 weight poly light thread. I will say that as well. I've worked with a lot of long armors on different projects, this being one of them. And my good friend loves the 60 weight poly light thread, as well as our 50 weight cotton thread as well. All right, so after you've quilted the piece, then you'll go ahead and trim it up, and then you need to add your binding. And Cheryl gave me a really short video on how to join binding pieces because it's a great opportunity to use leftover fabrics. Some people even use wider selvages that they've cut off of other fabric yardages to create scrappy looking bindings and things like that. And Cheryl shared with me that one of the things that she hears a lot is people don't really know how to join their binding pieces so that they look seamless, right? So I'm going to share with you this video from Cheryl. I'll play it a couple of times. So if you are creating your own binding for your mandala, mosaic, quilt, table runner, placemat, you get the idea. This will show you some great tips. So you've got your two binding pieces, and you can see she has not cut these on the bias because the pattern of the tiles is still, going left to right, or on the cross grain or straight grain. So you take your two fabric strips, you mark a diagonal line along one end, and then you need to place them perpendicular to each other, taking into account a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you need to offset the strips ever so slightly along both ends so that you have a seam allowance. Then after sewing along that line, you can clip off those seam allowance edges, trim just beyond your stitching line, a 1/4 inch. And then when you open up your strip, you have this diagonal piecing line, and your strip is perfectly straight and nice and flat. So when you go to bind your piece, it's almost seamless. You cannot tell where that join is, and it's so nice and professional looking. All right, so thank you, Cheryl, for those videos. Very, very helpful for everyone. I just have a couple of other photos to show you of the process that might be helpful. So here's that beautiful finished floral unit fused to that background fabric. So I think this image is really helpful because you can take a look at all the different layers of petals and map out which color you want where, okay? So if you don't want that teal color at all, you can mark that up and maybe add that light gray mosaic fabric in its place and see what that looks like. Maybe if you don't want that orange color at all, you can take that out, replace it with the teal, and then put that light gray in front of the teal on the flowers. So many different ways to make this your own and personalize it. Here's a great shot of Cheryl doing all of that applique stitching. And as I mentioned, it is time consuming. It's a lot of sewing, but isn't that what we love to do? Is sit at our sewing machines? So it doesn't bother me at all. I love blanket stitching. I love hearing the hum of my sewing machine. I'll sit there and applique these petals all day long. But if you want to keep it a little bit simpler, you could certainly do one flower and showcase it in a million different ways. It would look really, really pretty as the front of a tote bag. I believe the blocks are about 18 inches square, but I am going to double check that just to be sure. Let's see. They might be a little bit bigger than 18 inches. And the quilt pattern comes in 3 sizes as well. So not only do you have options for which fabric you want to place where or how many blocks you choose to create, but you also have 3 size options for your blocks as well. So lots of different ways to make this project your own, create a bunch of flowers to start thinking spring. You know, I know it doesn't seem like it, but it will be here before we know it. Let's just believe that, hold on to hope that, you know, we're going to get out of this cold snap and welcome some flowers in our gardens and, you know, hopefully the rebirth of, you know, our grass and foliage and everything is just on the horizon. So hopefully this mandala mosaic masterpiece gets you thinking spring a little bit. And definitely grab up this kit while you can, because it's just about $40 for all of this stuff here, including all of these great fabrics that I showed off today. It has $137 retail value, and it's on sale for only $41. So absolutely amazing deal. I don't know how Sulky does it, but bravo to them for providing this for everyone watching today. And you know what? Our special gift for one lucky viewer who is watching right now, commenting, giving me all of those great emojis and thumbs up and participating in the chat today. That's all you have to do to be automatically eligible to win a gift from Sulky. And I'm going to give away one of these quilt kits to one of you who are watching and doing all of those great things. So the mandala mosaic quilt kit is going to be today's gift from Sulky. So another round of applause. Thank you, Sulky, for being so generous. And I can't wait to see what you will all create. Be sure to go and join our Sulky Stitch and Post Facebook group so that you can share all of your makes with us when we get to see everybody's take on the mandala mosaic masterpiece. Also, while you are surfing the internet, make sure you head on over to the Craft Tours page. I linked directly to our Greece tour in the description of today's post, and I highly encourage you to head on over there, check out the full itinerary and pricing plans and all of that so that you can join us in May in Greece. We're going to soak up the sun together. We are going to be experiencing those Mediterranean vibes, and, sewing up some other Mediterranean craft trends, and having a general fantastic time with each other. So check out our Greece tour over on the Craft Tour site, and make sure to register before this tour closes at the end of the month. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining me on another So What? And be sure to tune in next week because I have lots more inspiration to share. And I love spending this time with you. And I appreciate that you love spending this time with me as well. I'll see you next Tuesday.